I'm Christina Leslie from Memorial Sloan Kettering. This is one of the program co-chairs, Sarb Sinha, University of Illinois. It's great to have this meeting in New York for only the second time in its history. I was talking just now with Manolis, and we figured out this is the 10th year that we've had the three conferences all combined, Regulatory Genomics, Systems Biology, and DREAM. So maybe if this works well, we'll have the conference in New York for the next few years. I just want to thank all of our sponsors, and one of our main sponsors for this event was Memorial Sloan Kettering. We had very generous funding from the Office of the President, who is a great supporter of computational biology. And I just wanted to introduce Dr. Craig Thompson, the President and CEO of Memorial Sloan Kettering, to give some welcoming remarks.
Well, thank you, Christina, and we really are thrilled to have you all here and host all three societies, as well as having you in New York, I think for the second time, if Christina explained to me correctly. How many of you, this is the first time they've been at Memorial Sloan Kettering? Pretty much everybody. So I bought myself 5 minutes of time to tell you guys something about the institution and why you are our future in many ways. So Memorial started 133 years ago. We actually started here because it was 7 physicians, and that's the way we started, as 7 physicians who thought cancer was a different diagnosis. In 1880, it was clear that the germ theory of disease was prevalent, and that's how everyone thought disease would occur. And cancer was thought to just be a manifestation of another infection. And a group of physicians thought differently, and they started the very first cancer hospital, which is today Memorial Hospital for Cancer and Allied Diseases. We moved to Central Park to gain some prominence for about 50 years. And at that time, science was driven by observing patients and understanding from those observations that one could generate hypotheses and then test them, that cancer was a separable disease. Today, we know that cancer is 400 different diseases because of the genomics testing and the analysis that many people in this room have participated. And we learned, actually, the very first hospital was designed by world-class architects on the idea that maybe the germ theory was right. So every single one of our patient rooms, you can still see them, although they're very high-end New Yorkers' apartments right now on Central Park West, were round. So there could be no corners that couldn't be perfectly cleaned to get rid of the viruses and the bacteria. So we've come a long way from that hypothesis that this was a virus, which was what dominated our first 50 years, and knowing about what happens in the genomics of a cancer itself. So in 1938, we exceeded the capacity of physicians to understand and collate data, and we needed a way to do beyond the empiric testing that we were doing with observations of patients to test in model systems. And at the time, the world's greatest corporation was General Motors. And the 2 engineers, because engineering for the first time came into the practice of biology, that ran GM, they were Alfred Sloan, who was the legendary CEO who put together the first mass production car company, GM, and his chief engineer, Charles Kettering, who designed the most common engine used throughout the world, what's called the Slant 6, you don't need to know that, trust me, decided that if they put good engineering principles into play, that they would solve this problem that was different called cancer. And the Sloan Kettering Institute was formed in 1938. Now, it didn't actually get off the ground until 1948 because the World War intervened and they actually held up on the project. But since 1948, we've been one institution, and that is Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, a group of both very basic scientists as well as physicians in caring for, at any one time, 150,000 people that were trying to understand this disease, cancer. We go forward to the amazing thing that you guys have participated, which is the sequencing of the human genome and the extraordinary understanding that's come out of that ability to analyze at multiple levels the genomic information that comes from a cancer that's different or similar than the patient's germline. Today, because of that extraordinary accomplishment, you guys have grown up as societies. We've brought wonderful mathematicians that are represented in this room into the field. And at Memorial, our role has primarily been, over the last 10 years, to simplify that for the rest of us, to understand that in a way through the CBio portal, through the TCGA project, to give that information to patients to make decisions. But we're entering a new form of biologic research, and that biologic research is completely data-driven. It's still empiric, but it's data-driven. And to be able to glean the lessons we need to know to deliver the next bit of information about why cancer arises and how we might best get ahead of it to both prevent and treat it, we need you guys engaged in what we like to think of as systems biology, but all the fields that you represent going forward. Around that, we're really pleased to host you. Christina has always been the one giving us the straight scoop on what we should do, these extraordinary databases, and to make sure we don't make gross errors of overinterpretation or assumption for the field. And this last year, we were able to recruit Donna Pear to start our program in computational biology and systems biology. And so we are really excited at this starting point. They have been bringing a whole new battery of things that you all are expert at to the institution. So with that, I am really pleased that you're here. You'll see a lot of our faculty will drift in and out in the next day or two trying to get their aspects of what you do. Please tolerate them as they ask, or me, as we ask naive questions. But we are thrilled you're here. And at this point, other than welcoming you to New York and hoping you get a little time to enjoy New York as well, but as Christina said, we're going to host you, I hope, for a couple more years as we go forward until another venue rotates in. It's my great pleasure to introduce Lonnie Welsh, who is the president of the International Society of Computational Biology, to kick off the program. Lonnie, welcome.
Thanks for promoting me to president. I'm a member of the board of directors, and I'm here to welcome you on behalf of ISCB. And ISCB, in case you're not aware of it, hopefully you became a member at least to get a discounted registration rate for this meeting. It's a society of over 3,000 people from around the world, and there are a number of ways that I would encourage you to get involved. I've taken my own advice and gotten involved in a number of these initiatives. I'm not a student anymore, so I'm not involved in this particular one, but I have worked with the Student Council, and they're helping to bring grad students to exciting places. The ISCB affiliated groups, I actually started one of these groups. It's called the Great Lakes Bioinformatics Consortium, and we felt that it was really beneficial for us to link with the ISCB, and that has been true. And we've been holding an annual meeting for about 10 years now in the Great Lakes region. We won't be holding our meeting this year because ISMB will be in the Great Lakes region, so we're getting a year off. But there are 22 groups around the world. I just was speaking with someone this morning who's submitted an application to become an affiliated group. So if you are representing a region geographically where there's a lot of cool stuff going on in bioinformatics, please do consider becoming affiliated with ISCB. Communities of special interest. I also helped to start one of these communities with Manolis Kellis. It's the Regulatory and Systems Genomics Community of Special Interest, and we now have a 2-day track within the ISMB meeting on regulatory and systems genomics, so I hope that you'll consider attending that track. There are a number of other communities of special interest. You can check out the webpage to see what some of those other communities are. If your community of interest, besides the one that's here, if your community is not represented there, I hope that you would consider creating a community of special interest within the ISCB. So the community that I mentioned, the Regulatory and Systems Genomics Community of Special Interest, we're looking for people to help us flesh out this community. We do have, as I mentioned, a 2-day track at ISMB. If you'd like to help us out with reviewing papers or in other ways with that track, please let me know. There is something called the ISCB Wiki Project Competition. which is encouraging students and trainees to develop enhancements, significant enhancements to Wikipedia articles in computational biology. And we're looking to create a track within that on regulatory and systems genomics. There's also the top 10 articles competition, and I hope that you have voted on that, or you will vote in the next day or so. How long do they have to vote on that competition? A day? Until tomorrow. And then, of course, there's this meeting, and as I said, we're looking for people to help us to develop new initiatives. So if you're working in regulatory and systems genomics and you have an idea, please do talk to me, and I'd like to help you to bring that to realization. As I hope you're getting a feeling from what I'm saying, ISCB is not a society. It's us. It's the members. And so if you have something that you would like to do and you would like to get involved in the community, there are a lot of ways to do that. A recent initiative is we tend to be academic heavy, and so ISCB has developed an innovation forum and is bringing in some industry groups to bring in to broaden our perspective. This is a competition which I almost won. I got second prize in this competition a couple years ago, and it's just because a lot of my students attend the Great Lakes Bioinformatics Conference. And if you bring in members to the society, then if they mention that you referred them to the society, you get, a vote, basically. And so I didn't quite win, but somebody else from the Great Lakes won a couple years in a row. So anyway, if you want to get a really nice VIP package, which includes complimentary registration and 4 nights in a hotel, this is a good way to do it. I mentioned the Wiki project competition. This is a really cool thing. When I first started working in this field, one of my colleagues was always yelling at our students, "Don't reference Wikipedia. That's a horrible source. You should never trust that." Now we're actually encouraging our students to improve the articles. And a couple weeks ago, I showed one of the articles in my class, and I sort of felt guilty for doing it. But really, you shouldn't. So anyway, if you're a student or a trainee, please consider entering this competition. The winner gets $500. Second prize $250, third prize $100, and you get to receive your reward at ISMB. And the entries for this year are due December 31st, so there's still time to enter this competition. The Art in Science competition, it's a really cool competition. You can go to the ISCB website and see the winners from last year. I was just showing Donna a picture that I took of the winning entry from this past year. It's a really neat work of art. I think it should be in the Museum of Modern Art, honestly. It's really cool. It's a really cool commentary on how we do science, so check that out. And if you're artistic, please do enter this competition. And as I mentioned, ISMB 28 will be in Chicago, so you can celebrate the 4th of July if you do such things, and then you have 2 days then to get to this meeting after your fireworks. And this year's ISMB chairs are Gary Stormo, Christina Rango, and Tandy Warno. And there are a couple of keynote speakers that have been identified so far. I think these 2 in particular would be of interest to this community. And we don't yet know who will be receiving these prizes, but the winners of the Overton, the Innovator, and the Senior Scientist Award will also be giving keynotes. And again, there's still plenty of time to prepare your work to submit to this meeting. Depending on whether you're doing a talk, an abstract, or a poster, you have from February 1st to April 5th. Somewhere in there is your deadline. And I'd like to thank the people that actually made this meeting possible. Greg, Richard, Christina, Pablo, Sarab, and Gustavo. They did a ton of work, and let's just give them applause to thank them. And of course, we want to thank our generous sponsors. Thank you very much for hosting us. And with that, I will turn it over to our chairs.